What's up? I'm Nizza.
I'm Scott McIntosh.
And this is Loud and Proud. Kiddies, we got a special interview today. It's one of the founding members of the punk scene in the 70s. I'm going to let Scott take this one because this is really up his alley.
As Nizza was saying, one of the pioneers of punk music, one of the very first original guitar players for the New York Dolls. And he's played with many, many bands, including MFU. Please welcome Rick Rivets.
Thanks for coming to the studio, Rick. All right, man. You're a New York guy. Growing up in Brooklyn, what was your first musical memory?
I used to started out on drums. Used to snare drum and cymbal, just playing, simple beats, playing the records and stuff like that. And in junior high, I saw that movie, Man with the Golden Arm with Sinatra.
Alright.
It was a junkie trumpet player, and I said, that looks
That's
cool.
me.
Let me try doing both of those. So I took up trumpet in junior high, played that throughout high school. And I was in the high school band with Arthur Kane, who played clarinet. And 64 came around when the British invasion. That's when we traded the instruments for guitars. I remember Arthur had a Gretsch anniversary, and I had a Gretsch 6120.
Oh, cool. Great guitars.
So Arthur was your first contact to the New York Dolls. So that's the first guy you met through them?
Well, this was in high school. I met Arthur when he was like 16, and we had a band in high school, the London Fog. He played rhythm guitar. We had, who turned out to be the singer in the Corpse Grinders, he was the drummer and singer.
Right.
And we played, me and Arthur played throughout high school. And after high school, we went to college for a couple of years, dropped out. Then he went to Amsterdam, and I followed him.
Sick.
We went to start a band over there.
In Amsterdam?
Yeah. But we couldn't find any singers that could sing in English. Everybody, yeah, there was.
That's weird, because when I went to Amsterdam, I thought I was going to get, stoned and, be in a strange land and not understand what anybody was fucking talking about. But, when I was there, everyone was basically from different areas and stuff. It was kind of like Vegas, in a way,
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was just situated in Amsterdam, but from, different parts. So, I guess
What
things
year
changed.
was it?
This was 70.
Oh, yeah.
1970.
Yeah.
Shit. I wasn't even a thought then.
And there were no bands really. The only band that we saw was a band called Amsterdam that had an album out. But when we saw them at the Paradiso, they were doing all blues songs.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they did the whole. Tommy had just came out. They did a bunch of stuff from that and stuff from the early days.
Yeah.
But we couldn't find. Arthur had a bass. I had a guitar. We couldn't find a singer.
So you couldn't get it going over there. So
No.
is that when you came back on the other side of the pond over here?
We were there for almost a year.
Oh.
Dealing hash and living off the money.
Yeah, sure.
You had some really interesting ladies
Oh,
over there,
yeah.
too, didn't you?
We're staying in. There was this it was a count, and he had a hotel, but the guy was gay. So somehow Arthur met him, and he gave us a room in his hotel.
Right.
But the only thing is, when we come in at night, he'd always try to chase one of us up the stairs and tackle us and try to make it with us.
So it was really on the arm, but on the arm?
On the arm. I left the arm. But then one day we see these two girls checking in, and we're looking, they look very familiar. Turned out to be Pamela Desbars from the GTOs.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know who the other one, maybe Lucy from GTOs. So we started getting friendly with them. I was trying to come on to Pam, but she was only interested in Jimmy Page and making money to go to England. So Arthur would front the hash, and she'd sell it, and they made enough money to go to England.
That's really cool.
And she wrote in her book that, you know, she was selling hash for 2 Dutch hippies. And, I guess we could have looked Dutch, but the
Right.
hippie part, I didn't.
Right.
This
Yeah.
was all about the hair, I guess, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for those who don't know who the GTOs were, they were Frank Zappa's band.
Yeah.
He put them together. It was the first all-girls band.
Yeah.
And
She was his babysitter. She was babysitter for
Moon.
Moon.
Yeah. Moon and Dweezil.
Yeah.
What about Johnny Thunders? I know how you met Johnny, you know, obviously, but
I don't,
That's-
so I'd like to hear that.
We used to see Johnny at all the concerts, at the Fillmore all the time, Action House. I remember we saw the Yardbirds out there, and he was there both nights. You know, we'd always see him at Central Park on Sunday, because that was the day everybody got dressed up and hung out at the fountain.
Right.
And we'd see him, and we'd always say, "Who is this guy with the fucking hair up the ear and the cool clothes?" You know, we'd be like, we'd walk by, "How you doing?" And we never really talked to him until one night, my Arthur got really drunk. We had a van. We saw this really nice Harley on Cornelia Street, so we decided to take it and, you know, change the plates and have something to fuck around with.
Right.
So we're trying to pick. It was a 1200 cc. We couldn't get the damn thing in the van. It was so heavy. So half of it was hanging out the door. And we're driving down Bleecker Street, and we see Thunders. He was walking into nobody's. So I said to Arthur, "There's that guy. Why don't you go out and ask him if he plays something?" So Arthur jumped out of the van. Johnny looked like we were gonna mug him or something. He like jumped back, and then Artie started talking to him, and turned out he says, "Well, yeah, I got a bass, you know." So he said, "Well, where do you live?" He says, "I live on First Avenue between 9th and 10th." So Artie says, "Well, I live on 10th Street between 1st and 8th." So I was staying over there at the time, and Johnny came over the next day. Brought the bass. We jammed for a while down. We had our equipment in the basement. We jammed for a while, and then we said, "You know, you want to start a band? You know, any drummers?" And he said, "Well, the guy I'm living with, this guy named Ozzy, we could try him out." So we went to the studio on 30th Street, one of those music buildings.
Right.
And we went down. The guy Ozzy played drums. Really, he couldn't really play. And Johnny was playing bass. You know, the thing was ridiculous on him. It was so big. He had a P bass. And we were doing Chuck Berry stuff. And then after about half an hour, Johnny said to Arthur, "You know, could you play this?" And Arthur had just bought a bass at Bill Wyman Framers. So he said, "Yeah, you know." So Johnny says, "You know, this is too big for me. How about we switch?" So Johnny wound up playing guitar, and Arthur wound up playing bass. And
Wow.
that
Just
guy,
like that, huh?
Yeah, it happened, you know, in a half an hour.
That's crazy how like musical history can change all in a matter of just like, you know.
30 minutes.
Yeah, exactly.
And all the time before that, Arthur was a guitar player,
I'll be darned.
you know.
Wow.
But that guy Ozzy didn't work out, so he says, "I know this other guy, Billy Mercia. He lived in Queens, not too far from where my mother lived." So he obviously had a band with Johnny and Sil before Billy and Sil went to England.
Right.
Because they went to England with that Truth and Soul. They were making those sweaters.
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
And they went over to England, and I think Sil brought back 2 Marshall stacks. Because Billy had, in the basement, he had the 2 stacks and his drums. We tried rehearsing there a couple of times, but Johnny didn't want to take the train out to Queens. Because at that time, Arthur was living in Billy's house,
Right.
and I was staying in one of the rooms. It was like a rooming house. He had about 10 rooms in there. It was his parents and, you know, these Colombians who rent the room.
20 of them.
There was probably like 3 in a room, you know, shared a kitchen. And we tried practicing there, but Johnny didn't want to travel. So somebody found a studio in the city, Rusty's studio, and we went up there, and the price was right. You know, it was, I think, $5 an hour or something.
Oh,
Imagine
Jesus
that.
Christ.
You know, we take it for 2 hours, and
$10.
all you had was 2 amps. You had a basement and a twin. So Johnny would play guitar out of twin and sing out of it. And me and Arthur would play out of the basement. We didn't have guitars at that time, because ours got ripped off from the basement in Arthur's house. So I borrowed some money from a friend and got a Strat and a Rickenbacker. And we'd switch her off with that wherever Johnny felt like playing that day. Sometimes he'd play the Rickenbacker, sometimes he'd play the Strat.
Right.
And, you know, we'd rehearse and, yeah, Rusty's.
Did some of the like early Dolls tunes come from those sessions?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Subway Train.
Oh yeah.
It wasn't called Dolls though at first, was it?
No. Somebody mentioned Actress, but the band was never called Actress.
Okay.
Like, we never really had a name.
Okay.
It wasn't like, okay, we're gonna call ourselves Actress. Somebody said, how about Actress? And I said, nah, it's no good, you know.
That's like Motley Crue with Christmas.
Right.
Yeah, Johnny wanted JT and the Asparagus. I didn't get the JT until he changed his name to Thunders.
Oh, so back then he was still Gonzalo?
Yeah. But he didn't want to sing after a while, you know, because he was writing 99% of the songs.
Right.
And singing them, and he said, you know, he didn't want to sing, he wanted to get a singer. So we tried out one guy. He looked okay. He came down, he's wearing silver leather pants, cowboy boots. He looked good, but he couldn't sing. So somehow Billy and Arthur met Johansen, and Johansen came down, and he knew all these songs, like, you know, Archibald and the drill stuff, and all the blues stuff. So basically, you know, he didn't audition. He came down and you were in the band. You know, that was it.
Right off the bat, you kind of knew that was kind of the guy?
I personally, you know, wanted to try other guys, but I didn't care, you know.
At that point, yeah.
You know, the guy could sing, and he looked good, so, you know, let's keep him. He knows the right stuff.
Right.
You know, he's into the same stuff we're into.
So when was actually the first time you guys went out and played a gig?
The first time was actually Christmas Eve, 1971.
Wow.
We were in Rusty's, and he always would lock us in. It was in the back of his bicycle shop, and he had this gate that he'd pull over the door and lock it. So if, you know, there was a fire in there, we'd be toast, you know. But he was afraid we're going to steal his precious equipment. So this night, I don't know why, but he forgot to lock the door.
You guys got a great back on, I guess.
Something was going our way, but I went out, I go to have a cigarette, and I see the door's not open. So I pulled it open, I went out, and I'm smoking a cigarette, and there's a hotel across the street, and I hear all this partying going on. So I walked in, and there's all these black people, it was a welfare party.
Oh, they all got their checks that month.
Right.
Yeah, they got the checks.
Party like
They had-
rocks, though.
They had all this food, and I just, the guy said, "Well, you guys making the music across the street?" I said, "Yeah." So he said, "How about bringing some, come playing over here?" So I went back, I told the guys that the door was left open. So everybody grabbed something, we went over to the hotel. It's the Endicott Hotel, it's still there. But I don't know if it's a hotel, it might be apartments now. But we set up and we started playing all this blues stuff. And then these guys would get up, Johansen would play harmonica and some black guy would be singing. Like some Muddy Waters song or something.
That's cool, man. That's totally different.
Awesome.
So for the, for payment, they gave us all these big plates of food. Because nobody was really had money at the time.
There's still no money in it. That's how we get paid sometimes.
Yeah, but it was a nice night. Everybody got nice and properly drunk, and we got the equipment in time, so Rusty didn't know. And that was the first gig.
So that was the first New York Dolls gig. It was the New York
Yeah.
Dolls at that point.
Actually, just the Dolls.
That was just the Dolls.
Yeah.
Who came up with the name?
Still,
So
there was the New York Dolls Hospital. Right a couple blocks from where he had Truth and Soul, or where he was selling to.
Right.
So we used to pass it every day, and it was a big sign outside New York Dolls Hospital. They repaired antique dolls. So they came up with the name, Syl came up with the name Dolls, or Arthur or something, and then Syl said, "Well, we're from New York, so we gotta be the New York Dolls." And that's how
the rest is history.
Yeah.
Wow.
So was you and Sil were in the band at the same time at that point?
No, Syl would just come down to practice.
Oh, okay.
Syl would come down, and Jerry would come down,
Oh, yeah.
and jam. Like Billy would take a break, Jerry would pick up the drums and play. Syl never jammed with us, but I know he wanted in the band
Right.
because he always kept coming down. And he was in a band with Johnny and Billy before.
Right.
So, I kind of figured that, there's going to be a time when I was going to be asked to leave, and they were going to take Syl,
Right.
because,
There's only so many guitarists that you can have.
yeah, and I think Johnny felt a little uncomfortable with, me and Arthur, and he's like 5'3", and Arthur was 6'3", and I'm 6'5", so it kind of,
Right.
so I think that's why he wanted Syl. Plus, he knew him longer.
It was almost like a wrestling team with a manager, right?
Yeah.
Skyscraper.
So-
The Skyscrapers with Jimmy Hart.
Yeah. So I think Syl got, junior.
Yeah.
Him and Billy got a junior from some store down in the village. They worked out some scam, and they had a nice junior. And I borrowed it from him for a week or so, put new knobs on it. And then I got sick for, I don't know what I had, some cold, something. Arthur came over to pick up Syl's guitar, and that's when he said, I hate to break the news to you, but I think the guys want Syl in the band. And,
That's
That's basically it.
That's
Yeah.
that.
That
And
was
you
it.